Is it all just a fantasy that I wanna be with you? Is it a fantasy that I wanna love you? Is it a fantasy that got me needing you? Is it a fantasy that's got me just wanting you? Is it a fantasy that I'm in love with you? Is it a fantasy that's got me needing you? Is it a fantasy that's got me wanting you? Is it a fantasy that's got me in love with you? I'm getting out my shower after hours in my room all alone, feeling nervous like a coward, so it's time to get my telephone. What's up? It's been a while since we conversated on the real, but sweetheart, let me speak on how I feel. Could it be that little Cupid stuck me with his weapon? Oh, could it be I fell in love and you were willing to catch me? These mental visions of your touch, they somewhat excite me. A stranger to your country, yes, I do want to sightsee. So take me on your tour guide, maybe even your pony ride, taking photos, sending them home sign, having a good time. My prayer, they gon' answer every single time I kiss you. I hold your hips and pull you tighter, cause it's time to freak you. Slip on the rubber, jump under the cover, and now it's time for fun. We making our love and last by doing it till the morning. Cause future family planning, yes, it's popped into my mind, but maybe we're moving too fast, so baby, let's slow down. We got a lot ahead of us, so there is no need to rush. Never play a hero bustin' in it, trying to break us up. Those late night confrontations with my pen and passion, how I feel, trying to turn my fantasies to reality. On the river, voices of niggas and man, fuck that who rap, ho. But love and affection on the other end is what you show me. We constantly touching and rubbing, maybe gone too far, caressing your neck and chest and try to keep you nice and warm. Is it a fantasy that I'm in love with you? Is it a fantasy that's got me needing you? Is it a fantasy that's got me wanting to be with you? Is it a fantasy got me doing the things I do? Is it a fantasy that's got me loving you? Is it a fantasy that's got me needing you? Is it a fantasy that's got me wanting you? Is it a fantasy that's got me loving you? I'm waking up thinking about you, but feeling crazy in front of my boys. Still thinking it's deep inside of me, asking me will you still be hard? Cause all those different types of hoes a nigga used to run into, only wanted fuck just for the feeling. Yes, it changed with you at time when we're alone. I just don't know how to act, but you make me feel much comfortable by touching up my back. I touch you, brush you from my chest, and then we start to kiss. You're laying back up in the chair, you're moaning from my fingertips. Lay down on the bed and put your body on my satin sheets. Candles burning everywhere, and now we start to feel the heat. Passion keeps me going non-stop until you come first. Yes, I'm right behind you, we gon' see who's gonna bust the worst. Am I just a sucker? Is it all in my mind? Are you taking all my money and my jewels with my precious time? Trying to be the man, not a dog that you looking for. Keep it straight and conversate, our babies on the download. The strongest getting feeling, but the feelings gets much stronger. A passion deep inside that I cannot hold no longer. My love is strong enough to want to give the whole world. With this weed, with temptation, got me freaking loving girls. Those moonlight conversations, ending with the words, hey boo, I'll see you tomorrow, sleep tight, good night, and I love you. Now tell me, is it a dream, is it all very real to me? I wanna stay a player, so it's gotta be a fantasy. Is it a fantasy that's got me loving you? Is it a fantasy that's got me wanting you? Is it a fantasy that's got me needing you? Is it a fantasy that's got me doing the things I do? Is it a fantasy that's got me loving you? Is it a fantasy that's got me wanting you? Is it a fantasy that's got me needing you? Is it a fantasy that's got me doing things I do? Is it a fantasy that's got me loving you? Is it a fantasy that's got me needing you? Is it a fantasy that's got me wanting you? Is it a fantasy that's got me doing the things I do? Is it a fantasy that's got me loving you? Is it a fantasy that's got me wanting you? Is it a fantasy that's got me needing you? Is it a fantasy that's got me doing the things I do?